Everybody, and welcome to Ohio State Primetime here at Ohio State at the Voice of College Football. I'm your host, Garrison Gaddy, joined here by our favorite fearless leader here at the Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers. Mark, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Garrison?
I'm excited. I'm happy. A lot of the things I hope for this season for the Buckeyes are happening, and this is actually the first time I've gotten to talk to you about it, so I'm really excited for that. But before we get here started, everybody, if you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, go to our website at www.vocfb.com where you can see the whole lineup that we have here at the channel and around the network. Also, check out the awesome writers that we have here that keep you up to date with everything that's going on around in college football and the greater landscape of it. Well, Mark, first things first, I want to start a little review of what happened this past weekend against the Penn State Nittany Lions. Of course, Ohio State wins that game 38-14. First half looked a little I thought that there was a lot of Ohio State fans that were a little too upset about the first half. I thought that fumble kind of ruined any big momentum that the Buckeyes had. It felt like we were going to get the ball back and kind of put the game away there on that drive. But what was your overall thoughts of the first half? What did you like? What didn't you like?
Well, first of all, I had an issue with at the point that play was blown dead, the C.J. Donaldson fumble, because it's one thing when a back or a receiver's in the open field and let's say two guys have a hold of him and he pretty much knows he's not going to go anywhere, but he chooses to fight, which is great sometimes, but they get an opportunity, to hold him up and strip the ball from him. Well, that was his decision to fight for extra yardage. In this case, C.J. Donaldson gets stood up at the line, and he can't go down if he wants to. He pretty much is just stacked up in a mosh pit, and he's getting pushed back, and it just seemed like they waited forever to blow the whistle, and he wasn't making forward progress. He was getting pushed back, and they take the ball away from him. So anyway, they obviously come back from that, but that was, a play Penn State made to set themselves up at the 15-yard line and make it a ball game at halftime when it looked like Ohio State would be able to, extend a 17-7 lead. So obviously that took it from being not a dominant first half, but a first half in which they controlled the game, were clearly the better team, to, we've got a 3-point game at halftime and things are going to have to happen. So it was good to see them come out in the second half and immediately drive down the field, reestablish control. And I just love the passing game. I love the way they've kind of orchestrated this entire season to say early on, we believe in our defense and we want to bring our running game along. And as long as our defense can win the games, we're going to protect Julian Sand, meaning not just protect him in the pocket, but protect him from a play calling standpoint and give him a little bit more every week. Seemed like maybe against Minnesota, they let him take more shots downfield, and it's just continued. Wisconsin, and on and on. And then I don't think they had I know that I just saw a stat that's crazy that he and Geno Smith are the only quarterbacks since 1985 to have three consecutive. Did you see this stat? They had three consecutive 300-yard games, 85% completion percentage, 3 TDs, no picks.
I remember that Geno Smith season.
Yeah. But the game, the way it was orchestrated, was just a thing of beauty.
Few stats here. Speaking of the passing offense, Julian Sand, 20 of 23, 316 yards, 4 touchdowns. Of course, the big thing there, him having more touchdowns than incompletions. Carnell Tate, 5 receptions, 124 and a touchdown, long 57. Jeremiah Smith, 6 for 123, 2 touchdowns, 57. Also, Brandon Ennis chipping in there with 41. Wills Kazmarek, 14. Definitely Julian's best game. Blake Ruffino over from the Ruffino and Joe show. He said that was the best game he has seen from a quarterback all season. And I think that coming to this game, the Nittany Lions were giving up about 121 pass yards a game, 158. Really glad that the run game got going. If it was a time for it to do it, it was against Penn State. All towards the fact that, the running backs didn't have a 20-yard run all through Big Ten play so far this season. And so Bo Jackson, of course, gets that 51-yard long run. I think the name that kind of gets lost in the shuffle talk about the offense is Brian Hartline. He's doing an awesome job. He's just like Julian. He's exceeded my expectations this year. How do you feel about Brian Hartline right now? Do you think how would you grade him right now?
Well, it's hard not to rate Brian Hartline as A++++, not just this season, but going back as far as he's taking control of the wide receiver position. Obviously, in that role, what can you say about him? But as an offensive coordinator, I would like them to figure some things out in the run game. You don't have to be a perfect team to win a national championship. So they can win a national championship playing basically the way they are right now. Arguably best defense in the country, arguably best pass offense in the country, decent running game. As long as they can get the runs, if they could do maybe basically three things in the run game. Get a few explosive plays out of Bo Jackson a game. And, maybe 3 or 4 runs over 10 or 15 yards out of him, and get the short yardage plays, get the 3rd and 1s out of Donaldson mostly. And then if they get in a situation in a big game later, whether that's in 3 weeks or in the college football playoff, Big Ten championship game, where they got to salt away a game with 4 minutes left with a 4-point lead, where they can show that they can push it ahead, like they did against Penn State last year, when they had the goal line stand. They still only had a 1-score lead, and they took the quarterback sneak and just drived it like 8 yards, and then just ran it, and Penn State couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, well, what was the stat? I can't remember the place and time. I want to say it was late 3rd or early 4th quarter where Penn State had 17 plays of 1 yard. And that when I heard that on the broadcast, I was just amazed by that. You want to see your team go out there and get pure domination again. Penn State, it's been a tough season for them, but I think what's really cool is that we all know that they're still one of the more, I would say, top 15 talented teams in college football.
Yep.
And just because you have talent doesn't make you a good team. So, I was definitely impressed with the offense. Offensive line, again, I thought they did a great job. They protected Julian. Julian does a great job of maneuvering around the pocket. Heck, they had that. It was 3rd and 5, and Julian takes off for a 9-yard run. Yeah. That was probably my favorite play of the game, to be honest. Just know that he can do that. But the offensive line, from left tackle to center, I would say has been an A+. Right guard is what it is right now. I'm not going to continue to just talk about a certain player. I think Josh Padilla should be getting most of the reps there. I think he's earned that, because the truth of the matter is he's younger, and if he's giving us the same production as some other players, then I think then he might as well just play. And then Phillip Daniels, he can be better in pass pro, but I'm okay with him. I think him being nasty out there as a player. I think I can live with that. But yeah, just another great performance by them. Run pro was great too, I thought so.
Yeah, and on the defensive side, watching that game, I don't think there was any question that Ethan Grunkenmeyer obviously was in over his head, as expected. I feel bad for the guy. I can't imagine a tougher string of assignments to start a career. Now, he's been around Penn State for a year and a half, but this was supposed to be his team next year. But to go to Iowa on the road for his first start. They've got the number 2 defense in the country to face Ohio State, the number 1 defense in the country, and we in his second start, and now he's got Indiana, who's playing as well as anybody, obviously. So you saw, obviously, he's not going to have the rapport with the receivers that Drew Aller had. I think that's pretty obvious. However, if you look at Penn State's offensive production versus the last 2 years with Drew Aller at quarterback against Ohio State, no difference. They scored 13 points last year. They had a pick 6, so they even did more in this game offensively. And then the year before, they scored 12. It was, I think, a 20-12 Buckeyes win, and Penn State didn't score until there was like 30 seconds left in the game. So Drew Aller, no Drew Aller, this offense isn't going to do anything against that defense. They had the big play on the first play of the game. Was that the first play of the game? The very first play of the game came from Allen. And obviously Ohio State didn't let that happen again. They had the drive where they did a lot of things with their 2 backs. And those guys are having an underachieving season, but I think that's based on a lot of other issues.
Especially Singleton.
Yeah, Singleton's really down at 3.6 yards per carry coming into this game, and that did not improve. That went down. But, they mixed and matched and did some things, and, did some counters and pulled some guards and tackles and did some things that put the Buckeyes on the defensive. But they obviously then adjusted to that, and there was no more of that.
Well, before we talk a little bit more about the defense here for everybody, and if you didn't know, the Buckeyes right now are 10-0-1 against the spread. And speaking of spreads and covering, quick message here from the voice of college football.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the voice of college football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
Garrison, you got like 30 seconds to let me complain about my picks this past weekend. Hey, Garrison, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
I was just saying, you got 30 seconds for me to complain about my picks this past weekend.
Oh, please do. You can take more.
Here's some bad beats for you. Like, anybody who predicts games or bets games always finds bad beats. So it happens to all of us all the time. But this is almost unprecedented. So I picked 19 games this past weekend, and 2 of them I lost by 0.5 point. That seems to have been happening to me like 2 or 3 every week. Like, I got Stanford in 14.5, they lose by 15. I got Virginia Tech in 11.5, they lose by 12. So there's 2 of those. And then I had Cal +6. They're losing by 3. There's seconds left in the game. Like, I'm talking like 10 seconds left in the game. They throw a pick 6 on the last play of the game to lose by 10. And then get this, the last one, I've got Georgia to cover a touchdown. They're up 4. Gunnar Stockton's walking in for a touchdown. There's about a minute left. I don't know if you saw this play. And he knelt down at the 1 yard line, so they didn't score.
Yeah.
He took the knee at the 1, which is the smart play to make. I get it, but
Not if
he
you're
kneeled
Ryan
down
Day.
where he had a walk-in touchdown to win by 11, and he kneeled down. So even with all that, I still went 12-7 against the spread.
Mark, so 6 months ago, I placed a $50 bet. Now the season I had for this player didn't go as projected, or this team, but I thought there was still a chance in this game, and I got really excited during the game. I had put $50 on Florida beating Georgia some time ago, and I was just this close. And then when I saw them call that an incompletion, I went ballistic in I went ballistic in the living room. I actually want to talk about that game a little bit later in the show.
Okay,
but no, I want to move to the defense real quick. What First, I want to ask you this: when Matt Patricia was hired by Ryan Day to come to Columbus, Ohio, what were your first thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts were that I personally didn't have any issue with it. The guy was a first-rate defensive coordinator with the New England Patriots, winning Super Bowls. So, from that standpoint, that was my take on Matt Patricia, me personally. But I started to hear from this person, that person, and various people that I trusted to a certain degree, had some level of respect, that talked about how he didn't get along with players, how he didn't relate to players well, that, there certain people had takes on why he didn't succeed at Detroit as a head coach and how that was connected to running a defense. So I didn't think it was I didn't know if it was great. I didn't criticize it. My approach to my analysis is I have very strong opinions about a lot of things. Other things I say, I don't know. I'm going to have to wait and see. Like this person saying this and this person saying that, but I wasn't hot or cold on his hire. It wasn't like Jim Knowles, where I was pretty strong in support of that hire. Not that he had a great run at Oklahoma State. He had a great closing 2 years at Oklahoma State that looked good. So I was much more in support of Jim Knowles. The Matt Patricia, I was more like, at some point, I think you got to trust the operation. You got to trust it's almost like people have an issue with this. I argue with Corey Brad about this all the time. When I rank players in the preseason, like when I was telling him in the preseason, well, Julian Saint's going to be the best quarterback in the Big Ten. He's like, how can you say that? You've never seen him play. Like, never played. Well, I can trust that if Ohio State and Ryan Day needed a quarterback, they would do what they did last year and go get a transfer quarterback. But they know what their standards are, and they believe that they've got it right there. So it's like when Nick Saban named Bryce Young as the starter as a redshirt freshman before they even went to spring practice. And Nick Saban has always let guys battle it out when he didn't have an incumbent quarterback all the way into August. But that particular year, he said, Bryce Young is the starting quarterback. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to rank him like second or third in the country. People are like, he's never played. Well, I'm going to trust Nick Saban. I'm going to trust Ryan Day to tell me. So I'm trusting the hiring process is basically what I'm trusting. Ryan Day and the hiring process there with Matt Patricia. So that's about where I stood.
That's where I was. Honestly, I thought that Ryan Day has kind of earned the Buckeye fan trust of the going after the hires he gets. I think he gets the right people. I mean, just some of the stats from this game. And by the way, Arvell Reese, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. Right now, the Ohio State team is giving up 6.9 points per game, 81.8 rush yards, 133 pass. Mark, in comparison to what I believe to be the best Ohio State defense in program history, also on the same, I think it's the best team in Ohio State history. The 2019 defense gave up 104 rush yards compared to this team's 81, 156 pass compared to 133, and then a whole point more, 7.9 per game. And that's just to show what level this defense has been playing on. I mean, at all three levels, from the D line to the linebackers. I think a player doesn't get talked about enough is Peyton Pierce. I like to mention a lot of times during the fall. During the fall, James Laurinaitis said that he views Peyton Pierce on the same level as Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. And I think whenever he gets on the field, he plays that way. The secondary looks better than last year. I think Devin Sanchez has been great, and with Lorenzo, those Styles being out, and they say he's supposed to come back this week, so good for him. I think Jermaine Matthews has been great, no matter where you put him. I think whether it be in coverage, whether it be at the nickel, whether it be at the boundary, whether you ask him to come off the blitz and get to the quarterback and force a fumble and get a sack, he does that. And then I haven't even mentioned Caleb Downs yet. It's I'm on the verge of putting this team up there with some of the best Ohio State teams I've ever seen. I need to see the run game be a little bit better. But man, right now, I don't think any Ohio State fan outside of maybe Caden the Diesel, outside of him, I don't think anybody else would have called this or seen it coming.
You threw out a stat a couple of weeks ago that was pretty eye-popping, and I don't know where it stands now, but I got to think it still holds up pretty well about the defensive line. When you looked at, this might have been after maybe the Washington game,
yes,
somewhere early in the Big Ten season, about, we know what they lost off last year's defensive front, that, and how dominant those guys were. And then that this defensive front had more sacks and more TFLs against better competition. That team faced 3 cream puffs in the non-conference, and the first Big Ten game was somebody lousy, and I think it was Michigan State. Anyway, and this team had Texas, Washington, and another decent team in there, maybe
Ohio,
and Ohio, yeah. But better TFL and sack numbers than the defensive front from last year is pretty impressive. And obviously, Kenyatta Jackson is having a great season.
Yeah, him, Caden Curry. I'm very proud of him because he was someone that over the last 3 years, whenever he plays special teams, once a year he made a big play, at least twice. And he was someone I thought had a high motor, someone I always thought that was going to be a really good player. So seeing him lead the team in sacks, I think he's tied second right now in the Big Ten in sacks. It's really cool seeing him do that. The defensive tackles, I think, are probably the most impressive unit for me in terms of, based off of what I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. A lot of people thought there was a lot of depth missing there. Caden McDonald is solidifying himself as one of the best defensive tackles in the country. Tyler Malone has been a long ride, but he looks awesome out there. Edric Houston, over the last 2 games, he's starting to come along. I think that game of the year, he wasn't playing that well, but he also was getting some dumb penalties. But now I think he's kind of put it together. And then I think the 2 of the more important guys on this team, Jason Moore and Will Smith Jr., son of the late Will Smith Sr., those 2 have been playing awesome when they get on the field. And I thought that was it 2 games ago when it was 2 plays in a row where Jason Morse, plugged the middle, got the tackle, and we would have gotten the 4th and 1 stop had Caleb Downs, of all people, not tackled the ball carrier forward. So, this defense has been it's awesome. It's great. You can't really run on them. You can't pass on them. For a guy like Ethan Gruntmeyer, and shout out to him, I thought he handled himself well in the game for being how young he is. I think I'd probably also a real cool moment for him being from Ohio, again, from Olentangy, getting a chance to play at the Horseshoe. But what can you expect for a kid like him going against that Ohio State defense? It is what it is. Any last thoughts on it, Mark?
Yeah, obviously, you always want to see the best play the best. So we could all kind of look across the country and see the kind of offenses that we want to see Ohio State's defense go up against. Maybe they'll get one in the Big Ten championship game in Indiana, who's we know about Fernando Mendoza and what he's doing in the pass game, but they get a little undersold in the run game. They've been pretty devastating running the football. They crammed it down Maryland's throats for like 370 yards rushing, and they've been doing that pretty consistently. Roman Hemby and the rest of the crew there outside of the Big Ten, and obviously Oregon would be a great challenge. USC would be interesting. Not that they're going to face them in a Big Ten championship game, but just looking at different offenses across the country. Alabama, Ty Simpson. I don't know if they could protect him well enough, but those receivers, Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, would be a great challenge with Simpson, who's outside of Julian Sayin, I think, throwing the ball about as well as anybody in the country. So, yeah, we'll see come college football playoff time with some of the better offenses in the country, how truly good the defense is.
Do you currently believe Ryan Day will send 2 players to the Heisman ceremony for the second time?
Yeah, and really have to look at the field because obviously we're talking Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin. Obviously, the odds are against it. Any team having 2 players, but if the committee is really doing its job and choosing the 4 best players, regardless of team, then, and Jeremiah Smith, obviously he's got a lot of momentum going with his numbers, and now that they're in the flow, he's really racking up the numbers after a slow start. So yeah, big Michigan game would be huge.
Yeah, I've been telling Ohio State fans, Mark, it sounds, you might want to scrub your mouth after you say it, but if you want our guys to have a Heisman moment, you need Michigan to win out, at least until they play us. Like you kind of need that.
Yeah.
Before we continue here, everyone, just so you know, if you're just now joining Mark and I, you'd like to listen to the beginning of the show, you can go ahead and see us live on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. Listen to the playback there. Real quick before we move on to the Purdue Boilermakers in the second half of the show, Mark, want to talk about some games, a couple games here that happened around the country. UGA beating Florida, as we mentioned earlier, and me losing my $50 on that. Oh man, I'm really mad about that. But what did you think about that game? My mind is stuck on one play and one play only, so I think knowing that my money has been involved in this game, it's better to listen to you right now.
Well, I was going to say you take it away because, man, you're fired up about this ball game.
I'll give you 30 seconds about it.
Yeah, I don't know that I need 30 seconds because you can blame YouTube TV and, well, most notably, you can blame Disney and ESPN. I didn't see one play of the game. So I didn't know anything about that until looking at my phone about a half hour before the kickoffs at noon and figured, okay, I'm not going to be able to watch any SEC games. I was going to watch Texas and Vandy. I was going to watch Georgia, Florida. I got basically a 2-game lineup at each broadcast window and then a third game on another set that I can hardly pay attention to. And that's kind of my setup. So the SEC got shut out for me on Saturday. I was watching more Big 12 football than I cared to. So I did not see Georgia and Florida. I knew nothing about what happened in that game. I'm sure I could pull it up on YouTube and watch it now, but I did not prepare for that one. So I got no thoughts except I was expecting Georgia to be more decisively a winner in that game.
Yeah, it was. I watched the highlights. It was tough to watch because there was a moment there where I was riding high, But then I forgot that Georgia, though they may be one of the worst first half teams in college football, they're one of the best second half teams. And Florida is a team with troubles. And then it showed up and it, reared its ugly head. And thankfully I made this bet some months, like almost half a year ago, so I couldn't be too sad about it. If I did this maybe a month ago, I'd been pissed off. Then before we get to the other two games, I want to give a shout out here to B Vargo for becoming a YouTube member here at Ohio State, the voice of college football. Appreciate you, man. By the way, if you don't already, go ahead and follow me on X and Mark, also Mark Rogers at VOCFB on X, but myself at Buckeye_Gaddy. I'll follow you back. Tell me throughout the week if you're a member. If you're not off already, hit that join button. You'll see the 3 tiers. We have the Block O Club. JT wasn't short because we all know that he wasn't. We don't give a damn, and you know the rest. Yeah, you messaged me on there. Tell me what you want to talk about. Any questions you may have, I'll bring it on here so you guys have extra content on here and to listen to. And we'd love to do that with you. Make sure you guys also have a voice here, the voice of college football. Mark, but my other games here, Texas beats Vandy 34-31. It did look like Vandy was gonna get blown up, and then they come back late in the game. But the question I have for you is more so towards this. For weeks on end, and I think Ohio State fans felt the same. I know I did. We kind of stopped caring about that Texas game and treating it as if it was really a big win. How do you think that Texas win should be viewed now around the country and for Buckeye fans?
Yeah, so Texas is obviously disappointed compared to what they were supposed to be. They, in addition to their record, which isn't that awful at 7-2, they barely beat Kentucky. They were completely outclassed statistically in the box score by Kentucky, and they won in overtime. Trying to think of what other game they had like that was a win. Anyway, I watched them play the entire game against Florida. They looked awful. They looked awful in that game. Arch Manning looked awful. The offensive line was terrible. They were giving up, they were getting pushed up and down the field defensively by Florida's run game. They just looked bad. That's probably the worst game they played this season. But I also saw them play Oklahoma. They dominated that game. They're a top 5 talent team in the country. And don't be surprised if they got a tough run to finish things out to try to get to the CFP because they got a 2-loss team. They got Georgia. They got Texas A&M in particular. So I don't think they can lose either one of those. I don't think they can get in at 9-3 because I don't think their schedule's quite difficult enough. So they'll probably miss the playoff. But I think we have to see it as not the win that it was supposed to be at the time, but it's still this is what I run into all the time is people picking on wins. Basically, that's not that good of a win. That's not that good of a win.
Right.
They downgrade every win. But go around the country and try to find the great wins. There aren't many because you know what? Those teams don't lose any games or they lose like one. So there aren't that many Indiana-Oregon games or Alabama-Georgia games. There's not that many of those.
Yep.
So it's still a top 15 win in the country.
Yeah. I think Arch Manning is starting to look better now.
Yeah.
And I think that the offense as a whole is, I think they found their niche in their offense. And I think that, as of right now, you can look as a good win. They're a team that if they win out, they're going to be a playoff team.
Oh, yeah.
So, and at the end of the day, it's still a top 2 defense in the country. Yeah, I think that does get lost when people have this conversation about them. And then the last one here, Mark, USC beats Nebraska 21-17. Of course, we all know Dylan Raiola goes down for the rest of the season. That plays a factor in there. But I thought that this game was big in a sense. I think it was a program game for both teams and both staffs. It kind of helps you in your hierarchy of where you are in the Big Ten, not just this year, but the upcoming years, especially with both quarterbacks coming back next season. USC, I think they're a very impressive team. I really do. And some of the teams that we're going to talk about your top 25 here, even in the top 20 that I posted, you look around the country in the AP 25 and all that. I think like if you ask me if USC and Tennessee played on a neutral field, I pick USC. I think that's a pretty good team that can play defense when it instance.
Well, Tennessee hasn't beaten anyone. Anybody with a pulse. I saw a stat this week, and it still holds up because they lost to Oklahoma. All of Tennessee's Power 4 wins, if you add up all those teams, they're 1-17. Well, it's going to be worse now. 1-17 in conference play. Like, they beat Syracuse. They beat Mississippi State. Forget who the other two teams are. I could think of them in a second, but I won't go on and on with it. But yeah, Tennessee's a talented team, but they're not very good for their standards, for what we would expect. They're not a top level SEC team. They're okay. They're a fringe top 20 team. But yeah, I think much like you, I really wanted to see USC and Nebraska. That was the game I wanted to see probably more than any other game of the week. My love-hate relationship with Nebraska is this, that not to the extent of Miami fans that are starting to drive me crazy, but
buddy.
Like, Garrison, we do a Miami show on Wednesday nights, and like 2 or 3 weeks ago, after they beat Notre Dame, then they beat Florida, beat South Florida, they had some nice wins. Like this became a regular conversation in the chat. Who should we play in the national championship game? Who do we want to play? We want to take down Ohio State, or do we want to play? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Relax, calm down,
Right.
Get out of the ACC first. Win a meaningful game for the first time in 20 years. Do that first before you start trying to choose who you're going to play in the national championship game. Ridiculous. Nebraska fans have a little bit of that in them. Some of them.
It's a nice fan base.
I'm not calling them all out. What's that?
They're a kind fan base.
Kind?
Yeah. Except Justin. And I like Justin. He's more rigid, but
after they had a Friday night against Minnesota where they lost by 3 scores, and Miami lost to Louisville on the same night, and I actually was out. I wasn't going to go live, and I got home about midnight, and I was just going to watch the games on record, but I was like, no. And I got to get after these two fan bases because they drive me crazy over hyping themselves, and they can't beat Minnesota and Louisville. So for Nebraska, so there's that side of it. They've lost 29 consecutive games against ranked teams.
That's so bad.
It's embarrassing.
When do you lose blue blood? When are you allowed to lose blue blood status?
Oh, well, that's a whole other conversation.
Okay, we'll save it for another time.
We could save that for the off season. I got my opinion on that. Like, I had a number of Nebraska fans didn't like that I said this. I basically said, take off the logo, take out the fans in the stadium, all that business, everything off the field, the tradition, the history. Nebraska is Rutgers. They're Rutgers. They have been Rutgers for the last 5 years. That's what they are. Greg Schiano's going, maybe not this year, 7-6, going to bowl games. They doing anything more than that? No, that was their best season last year since 2016. So anyway, I will say it this way. I don't think that was a breakthrough game for either team winning that game, but it shows that the other one's not ready for prime time. Now, I went into that game believing USC was decidedly a better team, and I feel the same way. To go night game on the road, blackout, and win. Now, I felt bad for Nebraska and that Dylan Raiola wasn't there, so they were playing with their arm tied behind their back in the fourth quarter, much of the third quarter, fourth quarter with TJ Lateef. So that was tough to watch. They were trying to manage the game. But Jaden Mayava, I've never seen him play worse, and USC still won. And Lincoln Riley did a smart thing. He made him a runner. And once he realized he doesn't have it tonight, man, he just doesn't have it. And he still made some big throws in the fourth quarter, but basically didn't have it. I'm going to make him a runner, and we're going to ram the ball down their throats. What was impressive about USC is they did the same thing to Nebraska that they did to Michigan. They looked like the physical team. You think of USC being the wide receiver team, the finesse team. They rammed it down Nebraska's throats. They rammed it down Michigan's throats, and they were the more physical team.
And but before we move on, real quick, you spoke about Tennessee, and there's one team I want to talk about from your top 25. If you haven't seen it already, everybody, look there in the chat. You'll see there's the link right there for Mark's top 25 that actually makes sense. You have Iowa 18.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull this up so I can reference it. Go ahead.
And Mark, if you remember a conversation we had during the offseason where I was really down on Iowa.
Yep.
And I said that there was a chance that they could go 0-9 in the conference.
Yep.
And then maybe after talking to you about a month after that, I kind of talked myself out of it. But I've gone from that to banging the table every week for Iowa. You know, I love that you have them at 18 because I think people, if you look at what they've done, they've had 2 losses by a combined 8 points, 5 against Indiana in a game they probably should have won. Then, of course, Iowa State in a rivalry game against the Cyclones. The one of them, you know, if you looked at their offensive stats, you wouldn't think they're impressive at all, but they're one of the most efficient offenses in the country. Phil Parker looks like he has another really good defense. It's not as good as some of the past ones where I think they had like championship level defenses, but it's pretty good. Man, I think that Iowa team is pretty good, is really good. I won't say really good. They're pretty good. I've talked to some Oregon fans, Mark, before we talk about this Ohio State Purdue game. I've talked to some Oregon fans who are elated that this game is at noon and that they don't have to play in Kinnick Stadium at night because they believe this. They believe the horror stories, and they're real. Though they are real stories. But yeah, I thought everyone, you should definitely go check that out. Some of the other ones, I'll probably have to call you sometime this week, Mark, because you have Notre Dame at 16, Miami at 15. I know why you have them there ahead of Notre Dame. I completely disagree with it.
Yeah,
because I just think that one's better. But and then everyone, if you wanted, yeah, if Mark's top 3, everybody, and I can't begrudge him for it, except for outside of one team. IU 1. The Aggies of Texas A&M at 2, and the team that plays on the banks of the Olentangy, Ohio State at 3. So, yeah, and I understood it. Like it does make sense, and that's the part about it is that you use good logic.
So, few things people need to understand about this ranking.
Yes,
is that doesn't mean that I think Indiana is the best team in the country, and Texas A&M is the second best team in the country, and Ohio State's third best team in the country. I've said over and over and over and over and over for recent weeks, all the way to the beginning of the season, that I think Ohio State's the best team in the country. This is a resume ranking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm ranking Ohio State's resume 3rd. So that's fair. Everything that's about.
Well, before we continue and we talk about the Ohio State and Boilermaker game, everybody, get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football, and let's discuss how you also can reach your target market. The Voice of College Football is a growing network with a large following, so let's find out how we can help you grow with us. Check out the experience of one of our partners, being Win Agency, posted here on the screen, and just like them, we are here to deliver for you. Contact us at sponsorships@vocfb.com. Again, that is sponsorships@vocfb.com today. Well, Mark, we come back this week, and the Ohio State Buckeyes go to West Lafayette to play the Purdue Boilermakers. By the way, one of the more fun campuses I've ever been to. It's a beautiful camp. It's not as nice as Indiana's, but it's pretty nice. But it's a 1 p.m. kickoff. Ohio State favored 29.5, over under 48.5. Purdue comes in 2-7, 0-6 in conference play, and come off of a loss 21-16 in Ann Arbor against the Wolverines in a game that they were pretty competitive in. And for me personally, it was fun to watch. Mark, what are your views of this Purdue team? Me personally, I think that they have improved from last season, but they're still pretty bad as we all see. But yeah, what's your take on them?
Yeah, they were almost historically bad last year. They were so incredibly bad. They lost 2 games where they gave up 66 points to Notre Dame and Indiana. They just got annihilated week after week. So they hire a capable coach, so that helped. So I think that pointed them in the right direction. Ryan Walters was a great defensive coordinator, but obviously couldn't handle the job. So they bring in Barry Odom, and I just think he's done a nice job. So they're competitive in these games. They lost to Minnesota by a touchdown. They stayed in the game into the fourth quarter against Illinois. They lost by 16. I don't know what happened against Northwestern to lose that game 19-0 is kind of strange, but so that was their worst game of the season. If you really dig into the USC game, they were pretty competitive there. They made a lot of botched plays in the red zone. I didn't see any. I saw like a play here and there against Illinois, but not enough to really gain anything from it. But while USC and Nebraska was my focus on Saturday night, my second focus was Michigan, Purdue. And Michigan was the better team. I don't want to say they had control of the game, because anytime you only win by 1 score, you're 1 play away from losing the game. But Michigan was the better team. There's no question about that. They outgained them by about 120 yards, but it was not. I did a breakdown of Michigan the next day and really started to compare how Michigan's playing against these teams versus how everybody else in the Big Ten is playing against these teams. And really, Purdue played Michigan closer than, like, all these other teams beat Purdue worse than Michigan did.
Right.
Like practically everyone, except Rutgers. So the Michigan, I know we're not focusing on Michigan. They've got a lot of things to clean up. Purdue had its chances to pull off a pretty major upset. They were a 3-touchdown underdog.
Yeah.
They were in the red zone once, and they missed a blocking assignment, and Derek Moore blew up Ryan Brown for a strip sack. Their punter, with no pressure on him, just completely shanked a punt for like 11 yards at their own goal line. So they gave Michigan a gift, like at their own at the 28-yard line to score a touchdown. But other than that, physically, they competed. They were up to the challenge. Now, they did give up some gash plays to Jordan Marshall. Do I think this is going to be a good game? No, I don't. But I don't know if Ohio State's going to post like a classic 52-0 kind of win. I think it's going to be a little bit more respectable than that. But I don't think it's going to be as respectable as Washington or Illinois scores. I would think Ohio State should be able to win this in the 40s and give up around 10.
Sorry, I'm reading this comment that's popped up.
What do we got here?
The Honorable Jam. Garrison's wearing glasses to impress the boss into thinking he's very intelligent. Then he loses him with his Pabst hat.
Nice.
Yeah, shout out to Jam. We have a distinct disagreement of PBR Pabst beer, but Yeah, this Purdue team, you brought Brown, over 1,800 passing yards this season, 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Maccabee, who actually had a pretty good game against Ohio State 2 years ago, was it? But 521 yards, 4 touchdowns, but he will not be playing in this game. Then Jackson third, 556 receiving yards, touchdown. Tuggle 348, 4 touchdowns. Mark, this team. So just in terms of the Big Ten, they're 10th in offense, which I think is pretty decent for them. But they are the second worst defense in the Big Ten, second worst in rush defense, third worst in pass. I'm looking at it right now, and per our friends over at FanDuel, the first, where is it? Here it is. The first half spread right now is 16.5. And the first quarter spread is 6.5. I think Ohio State is gonna smash those numbers.
Man, I would think so.
Because Maccabee, he's a hard runner. I like the way he plays football. I like the way he runs the ball.
He's been around a long time.
Yes, he has, and then, like I mentioned earlier, he had some success against Ohio State a couple years ago. But if he's missing, you have a quarterback who, though he's better than what you had last year, he has a tendency to turn the ball, a high tendency to turn the ball over. You're going against one of the better secondaries in college football. Your best chance of beating Ohio State is being able to run the ball. If you're using again, Maccabee's gone. I think Ohio State can get to the 50s in this game. And the reason I think that is because I think it's gonna be one of those games where Julian Sand gets out of there around the mid third quarter, beginning of the third quarter. I think sometime around, whether it be the end of the third or beginning of the fourth, they bring oh my gosh, West Dakota Heisman. They're bringing Lincoln Keenholz in the game. And I think they give Lincoln a few passes. I think they give him a few shots over there. Let him get some reps in. And I think we're going to have a lot of short fields. I think this game's going to get ugly really fast.
Yeah.
And I would say different if Maccabee was playing, because I think he gives them a chance of getting those 3 yards in cloud of dust. But I just can't see it. Purdue only scores, so they score 8.8. They only score 8.8 points per second half this season. They do score 12.8 at home. I don't think Ohio State gives them any chance to breathe in the second half. And I think it gets ugly over there in Lafayette.
Yeah, it's hard to find a way that they can keep it close. The last time Ohio State went there, I'm trying to think what I know Purdue missed a field goal. They clanked one in the first quarter, and I usually can remember scores, but it was like 45-10 or something like that. I don't remember what the final was. Yeah, we see 42-6 right there. Sounds pretty reasonable.
Something Daniel Henry. Yeah, I just start patting some Heisman stats for Julian and JJ.
Yeah, I just think that the Buckeyes have gotten past where they were against Ohio and Washington with babying Julian Sand. Way past that. And that was keeping the scores down. They were just trying to play a certain type of football. And now they've kind of taking the training wheels off, and Purdue's probably going to pay for it.
I want to have, before we get out of here, I want to have a deeper discussion real quick about Julian Sand. And actually, before we do that, I do want to give everybody my best bets of the week. Yep. So last week I wasn't able to get mine out last week. It was a rough. I had a terrible sickness last week, Mark. I don't know what it was. I had woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning, stomach just turning. Yeah. I felt like throwing up, and I just couldn't. And I just sat there until 7 p.m. in the afternoon. It wasn't the best day I ever had. But and I want to get your opinion on these, Mark. My best bets of the week, everybody. And this is per our friends over at FanDuel. And also, if you haven't already, go in the description there. Click on join our partners over at Novig and put in our code, which is VOCFBOSU there. Spend 50, get 50. Spend 10, get 50. It's an awesome deal over there at Novig. But Mark, I want to show you these real quick. So I think BYU is going to cover against Texas Tech. Of course, they're missing their starting quarterback right now. BYU, they have one of the best, technically one of the best true freshman quarterbacks in college football. Though he probably could be considered a grown man, like the rest of his teammates. That should be selling cars and giving life insurance over at BYU. But that's a really good team. It's a veteran team. I like what they do over there. Do you think they cover that 10? I honestly wanted to pick money line, but do you think they could cover that 10.5 against at Texas Tech?
Oh, I'm going to make my predictions later in the week. So,
No, okay then.
No, that's all right.
Well,
nobody take this to the bank. I'm just seeing these numbers for the first time. I would tend to lean BYU with the 10.5 for sure. I know that we saw a similar showdown in the Big 12 this past weekend where Utah was like a 11-point favorite against Cincinnati and blew off their doors. But I think BYU is just, I don't think anybody in that conference is regularly going to just destroy BYU. I actually watched, we talk about the YouTube TV issue, forced me into some games that I don't normally watch. I watched Texas Tech and Kansas State, and I know it's 43-20, but that game was still in doubt with about 6-7 minutes left. Texas Tech just piled on with a bunch of scoop and scores and pick sixes and everything at the end to win by 23. So, I do like the points there most likely with that one.
Yeah, then Texas A&M, Missouri over 49.5. UCLA 2.5 against Nebraska. Main reasons there. Missouri, of course, Bo Perbullo's out, but I think they'll still be able to run the ball on Texas A&M. I think the Aggies defense is piss poor, giving up 23.6 points per game. And then Nebraska, of course, Dylan Raiola's out. Nebraska's not good at stopping the run. And there's one thing UCLA can do with Nico Raiola. Nico, I am not a believer, is run the ball. What do you think about those two?
I'm not big into over-unders, so I've got no opinion on that.
I like that.
So that's I got to think the game's at Mizzou, right? I'm guessing. So I'm going to say, what is Texas A&M? Probably a 4 or 5
actually,
favorite.
wait, I think that's at TAM. It's at TAM.
Oh, so I'm guessing they're like a full touchdown, 8-point favorite, something like that.
Let me see. I have it here.
Let's see, Texas A&M, Mizzou. So you're looking at like, let's say Texas A&M hits the spread. They probably win this game like 28-21, doesn't quite do it. So, 30
I think they're getting a 30-35 on Missouri.
But I'm trying to think who else has done that. Bama scored 27 against them. Auburn's a bad example because they can't score. That game was like 17-16 or something going into overtime. It was like 17 all. Again, I don't deal with over-under, so I don't have a strong lean on that. And UCLA's at home. They beat Nebraska on the road last year, so they're playing at the Rose Bowl. And really, if you throw out the Indiana game, that's almost an aberration where they got just completely drubbed. They obviously were playing so much better before that with 3 straight wins. Yeah, this season is more where UCLA lost the season early. They're almost just playing for pride. They've shown that they're gonna play hard, even when it means nothing.
Yeah,
they beat Penn State, Michigan State, and Maryland 3 straight weeks. And Nebraska kind of lost their season. They lose their leader and they lose there any kind of playoff chances with it. So now going on the road after they took a gut punch on Saturday night. Yeah, I kind of like the UCLA pick.
And then just to end here, Mark, some news for the Buckeyes. The UCLA game will be a 7:30 kickoff game in Columbus. You know, it wouldn't be me, Mark, if I toot my own horn sometimes. Some time ago, I looked at the schedule. I picked which games would be the possible night games.
Yeah.
Boom. May 29. UCLA better be a night game. Because I looked at that schedule and I knew Big New would not let us have any other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you feel about UCLA being a night game in Columbus? I kind of like it.
What is the big noon game that week? Do you know?
Oh, I do not. If it's that week, I would assume it would have to be UCLA, USC, Oregon, but I don't know if they would move that because that would be a 9 a.m. game.
Yeah, they're not. That's not it.
Well,
anyway,
that's a great question. That's actually a great question. I want to know now. I'll look at my own time.
Yeah, I'm the wrong guy to ask about game times for these. I think it's way overblown. I don't really care when they play. It makes no difference to me.
Oh, it's good for recruiting.
I could care less when these games are. Play at noon, play at 10:30 at night. It makes no difference to me. Like that whole thing leading, and obviously it gets magnified because it's Texas. It also gets magnified because there are no games before it. So we get to talk about it for like months. What time is the Texas game going to be? And all that whole thing about, playing at noon and this sucks and we can't tailgate. We can't have a certain atmosphere because it's not going to be a night game. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Play at noon.
Mark, you want to let everybody know where they can find you and what you have coming this week?
Yeah, so the Voice of College Football. We obviously have a big network here with all sorts of shows all over the place. But for me personally, I do a 10 p.m. Eastern time show that's over on the main channel. And it's kind of confusing, except for tonight. But anyway, just join us on the main channel, 10 p.m. Eastern time, every other night. Now, if there's really good games going on, we'll go post-game. But otherwise, we're on at 10 Eastern. And the next show otherwise than that is we do an Iowa show at 5 Eastern. And they've got a big game against Oregon. So you can catch me doing the Iowa show, the Florida State, the Miami shows, and the Ohio State show right here at 11 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday. So again, give me a call. I got the phone lines open every night.
And then myself, I'll be on tomorrow with Mike. Tomorrow we actually have a Landon Tangwell from the Landon Tangwell College Football Show. We myself, we previewed the Penn State Ohio State game, and we're gonna do a reaction to it tomorrow with Mike, and then Wednesday Mike will do the late show, and then Thursday the call-in show for all of you. And remember, the call-in show is at 7 p.m. on Thursday, and that's the day for you guys, or the night for you guys, to be the voice of college football. Again, it's not just me here; it's you guys, and we'd love for you to come in and give your comments, questions, or anything else. Call in everything that you have to say about college football and Ohio State. Well, Mark, I appreciate you for doing this with me tonight, man. It was fun.
Sure,
Love talking football with you. Eventually, sometime in the off season, we need to have that discussion about what does it take for you to fall in and fall out of the blue blood conversation. I've never had that conversation. I've always wanted to.
Okay.
So because I've had teams fall in and out. I've had teams fall in and out.
We can do
but
that.
Thank you again, everybody. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. If you like the content that we bring to you here at Ohio State, the Voice of College Football, please subscribe and share. And as always, OH, IO.